It all started when I was 23, young, hopeful, and full of expectations about what my life would be. I never imagined that I'd meet Lucas, let alone marry him. The moment we met, everything clicked. He was steady, calm, and had a warmth to him that drew me in instantly. I was unsure of so many things in my life, but when I was with him, I knew I was exactly where I was supposed to be. He made everything easier, everything simpler. We dated for 2 years before getting married. It felt like the right decision, and deep down, I knew we were meant to be. Our wedding was small, but intimate, just the way we'd envisioned it. There was no need for extravagance. We had each other, and that was more than enough. It was perfect. I remembered that moment clearly, standing by his side, knowing this was the beginning of something incredible. The vows we exchanged, those promises we made to each other, felt like they would carry us through whatever life threw at us. The first year of our marriage was filled with so much joy. We settled into a rhythm. Our home was cozy, and our life together felt so right. We talked endlessly about our future. Children, of course, were always at the center of our discussions. We dreamed about the kind of parents we would be, how many children we would have, what they would look like, and what names we would give them. It felt like everything was falling into place. But we hadn't anticipated the challenges ahead, the one challenge that would change everything. After a year of marriage, we decided it was time to start trying for a baby. It was a decision we made with excitement, optimism, and a touch of nervous anticipation. We were ready. I was healthy, Lucas was in great shape, and we both wanted children. The timing seemed perfect, but as the months passed and nothing changed, I began to feel something I hadn't expected: doubt. The first couple of months, I told myself it was fine. It was normal, right? It was only a matter of time. But when the third month came and went, I found myself getting frustrated. The next few months were the same. And then, the next. I found myself obsessively tracking my cycle, taking tests, researching everything I could about fertility, and still, nothing. With each passing month, a small seed of fear began to grow inside me. What if there's something wrong with me? What if I can't have children? The question spiraled out of control, and with every negative pregnancy test, I sank deeper into my thoughts. Lucas, though, remained calm. He was still the reassuring, patient man I had married. He kept telling me that it would happen, that there was nothing to worry about. And in those moments, I tried to believe him. But every time I saw another announcement from friends, another pregnancy, another baby shower, I couldn't help but feel the sting. I was ashamed of these feelings. I didn't want to burden Lucas with them. He was always supportive, always so understanding. But the longer this went on, the harder it became to ignore the fact that something wasn't right. We talked about it, of course. But our conversations always ended with Lucas comforting me, telling me that we just needed more time. Yet I could see the change in him. The concern in his eyes was becoming more pronounced. And I wondered, was he starting to question me too? The weeks turned into months, and the frustration began to eat at me. I couldn't focus on anything else. Every test, every missed period was just a reminder of what we didn't have. I started to feel like I was failing Lucas. Every time we talked about our future, I saw his face light up when he mentioned children, and it hurt. I wasn't able to give him that. I finally asked him if he thought there was something wrong with me, but he always reassured me, it's just taking time, love. It'll happen. And I believed him because I wanted to. But deep down, I could feel the tension growing between us. The question lingered in the air, but neither of us dared to ask it aloud. Then, one evening after dinner, Lucas said, "I think we should go see a doctor, just to get checked out. It's been months, and I think we should know for sure." I froze. I hadn't expected him to suggest this. I was scared, but I agreed. We both knew that we couldn't keep pretending nothing was wrong. So we made the appointment. and the following weeks were filled with uncertainty and anxiety. The waiting felt endless. The appointment with the fertility specialist was a blur. The sterile office, the clinical discussions, the tests, the questions that seemed to never stop. But it wasn't until a week later that we got the results that would change everything. "We've ruled out any issues with you, Mrs. Bennett," the doctor said, his voice calm but distant. "But the problem appears to be on your husband's side." The words hit me like a slap in the face. I looked at Lucas. His face was ashen, his eyes downcast. I could see it. The guilt, the shame. It wasn't my fault, it wasn't his fault, but in that moment, all I could feel was the weight of the truth. The doctor continued, "Mr. Bennett, we've found that your sperm count is significantly lower than what's considered normal. This may be the reason for your difficulty conceiving." I wanted to say something, anything to make it better, but there was nothing. Lucas didn't speak for a long time. I could see the tears in his eyes. He was devastated, and I could feel it deep in my chest. "We can explore other options," the doctor said. "IVF, donor sperm, adoption. But it's important that you both understand the reality of the situation. It's not something that can be fixed." We left the office in silence. I didn't know what to say to Lucas, and he didn't know what to say to me. The truth was, we were both in shock. We were both devastated. The dream of having children, the way we had imagined it, wasn't going to happen. For weeks, Lucas and I barely spoke. We went through the motions of life, going to work, running errands, eating dinner together, but the joy we had shared was gone. The secret Lucas had carried for so long was now out in the open, and it felt like it had shattered everything. I didn't blame him. How could I? He hadn't asked for this, but I couldn't ignore the feeling of betrayal, the hurt, the anger. He had kept this from me for so long, and now everything was falling apart. We couldn't go back to the way things were, and I didn't know how to move forward. "I should have told you sooner," Lucas said one night, his voice barely audible. "I didn't want you to leave me. I didn't want you to think I wasn't enough." "You are enough, Lucas," I whispered, my voice breaking. "But we need to talk. We need to face this together. We can't keep pretending." The next few weeks were the hardest of our marriage. We tried therapy, counseling, and endless talks, but the emotional weight of the situation never seemed to lift. We decided to try IVF, to pursue adoption, and to explore all the other options that had been suggested to us. But it wasn't easy. Every step of the way felt like a struggle. The pain of realizing that we couldn't have children the way we had imagined was overwhelming. And as much as we tried to stay strong, the truth was that we were both grieving. Not just for the children we couldn't have, but for the life we had envisioned together. Months went by, and we slowly began to rebuild. It wasn't an easy road, and it wasn't without tears and moments of doubt. But in time, we realized that the love we shared was enough. We had to redefine what family meant for us, but we were doing it together. We started the adoption process. It wasn't an easy choice, but it felt like the right one. The pain of infertility would always be with us, but we had found a way forward, and for the first time in a long time, I felt like we were truly healing. The first few months of the adoption process were grueling. Paperwork, interviews, psychological evaluations. Everything seemed designed to test how much we really wanted to become parents. It was as if the world was asking us how much we were willing to sacrifice to make our dream of a family a reality. The questions, the forms, the endless checks felt never-ending. And yet, through it all, we somehow found a way to keep moving forward. But there was a constant ache that lingered. The truth about our infertility was still fresh, the pain still raw. No matter how many times I reassured Lucas that I was okay with everything, that I didn't need a biological child to feel fulfilled, There were moments when that ache would rise up again. I would see a couple with a newborn in a stroller, or a friend post a picture of her child's first steps, and I would feel the old longing stir within me. Lucas, too, struggled in his own way. I could see him watching other fathers with their children, the smile that would flicker on his face before he quickly looked away. He never said it, but I knew how much it hurt him, too. It was a pain we both carried in silence, one that we didn't know how to address. How could we? What were we supposed to do with grief that didn't have a name, that couldn't be fixed? But we kept going. We kept moving through the adoption process, and slowly, something started to shift between us. The first few meetings with the agency felt like walls closing in. But as we kept talking about it, kept going through the process together, something new began to grow. It was tentative, fragile, but it was there. We weren't just trying to have a baby anymore. We were trying to rebuild a life we both wanted, one that didn't revolve around what we couldn't have, but around the possibilities that were still open to us. The day we got the news from the adoption agency, everything changed. We had been waiting for months with no real idea of when or even if we would be matched with a child. We had grown used to the waiting, to the uncertainty. But that call, the one I had nearly stopped hoping for, finally came. It was a Wednesday afternoon when my phone rang. I was sitting at the kitchen table making notes for work when I saw the number on the screen. I knew immediately. My heart started pounding as I picked up the phone, my hands trembling. Hello? I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Is this Lucy Bennett? A woman's voice asked. Yes, this is she. This is Emily from the adoption agency. I'm calling with some wonderful news. We've found a match for you, a little girl. The world seemed to stop. I felt a rush of emotions, relief, joy, disbelief. I heard Lucas's voice in the background, asking what was happening, and I held the phone tighter, trying to steady myself. What do you mean? I managed to ask, still reeling from the shock. Her name is Ella. She's 3 years old. We believe she's the perfect match for your family. My heart leapt in my chest. I didn't know how to process the words. When can we meet her? I asked, my voice shaking. We'll arrange everything as soon as possible, but we wanted to let you know that we believe this is it, Lucy. You're going to be parents. I looked up, meeting Lucas's eyes across the room. There was a silence between us. No words needed to be said. We both knew what this moment meant. This wasn't just an adoption process. It was the beginning of our new family. The days leading up to our first meeting with Ella felt like an eternity. I remember the excitement, but also the overwhelming nervousness. What if she didn't like us? What if she wasn't ready for us? We had read all the books and articles about the challenges of adopting a child, especially one who had spent time in foster care. There was so much we didn't know, so much we were unsure about. But when we first met her, all of that melted away. Ella was shy at first. She clung to the social worker, her little face wary but curious. But when we introduced ourselves, something in her eyes softened. I smiled at her, kneeling down to her level, and asked if she liked the teddy bear I had brought as a gift. She hesitated and then reached out with a small hand, taking the bear from me. She's a little nervous, the social worker said quietly. It's a big change. But when I looked at Lucas, I saw the same emotion in his eyes that I was feeling, love, hope. It was all so raw and real, and we were both overcome with it. Over the next few weeks, we began to spend more time with Ella. At first, it was small things, playing with toys, reading her bedtime stories, showing her around our house. Every day was a new challenge, a new discovery. But slowly, Ella started to open up. She smiled more, And though she still had moments of uncertainty, she began to trust us. I remember one night, after we had put Ella to bed, Lucas and I sat on the couch in silence. For the first time in a long time, we both felt the weight lift from our shoulders. "She's ours," Lucas said softly, his eyes on the empty doorway of her room. "Yes, she's ours," I whispered back, feeling the enormity of it. We had been given a chance to build the family we had always dreamed of. It wasn't the way we had planned, but it was the way it was meant to be. And for the first time in years, I felt a deep sense of peace. Adopting Ella wasn't an easy process. No one tells you how much time, patience, and effort it takes to adjust to help a child integrate into your life. Ella had experienced trauma before she came to us, and there were moments when her past would resurface in ways we didn't expect. There were nights when she would wake up crying, calling for someone we didn't know. There were moments when she would push us away, afraid of getting too close, of trusting us. It was heartbreaking, but I understood. She had been through so much, and trust wasn't something that came easily for her. But Lucas and I never gave up. We went through the tough moments together. We held her when she cried, even when we didn't know what to say. We showed her love in every way we could, even when it felt like she didn't want it. We were patient, letting her set the pace, knowing that the bond we were building would take time. As the months passed, the initial challenges started to fade. Ella became more comfortable with us. She began to call us Mom and Dad, and I remember the first time she said it. I couldn't hold back my tears. It was like the final piece of our family falling into place. It wasn't easy, but every step of the way felt like a victory. We had fought for this. We had fought for our family. And every day it felt more real. Lucas and I began to reflect on everything that had led us to this point. The struggles with infertility, the pain of not being able to have children the way we thought we would, the doubts and fears that had haunted us. And we both realized something important. Our family wasn't what we had expected. It was better. Ella wasn't just our daughter by adoption. She was our daughter in every sense of the word. She had become part of us, and we had become part of her. And that, I realized, was the greatest gift of all. We continued to build our life with Ella, and the challenges kept coming. But with each new challenge, we found new ways to grow stronger, to love deeper, and to become the family we had always dreamed of. And in the process, I found myself letting go of the grief I had held onto for so long. I had spent so many years dreaming of a family that wasn't meant to be, that I had almost forgotten what it truly meant to be a family. It wasn't about biology. It was about love. Lucas and I had built something together, a family that was ours, and no one could take that away from us. As the years passed, our family grew closer. Ella became more confident, and our home was filled with laughter, love, and the sound of her footsteps running through the halls. We still faced challenges, every family does, but we faced them together. One evening, after dinner, as we sat together on the couch, I realized something profound. We had found the family we were meant to have. It was different from what we expected, but it was perfect, and I wouldn't change a thing.